Hey viewers, are you ready for a topic that's guaranteed to be only slightly more exciting than watching paint dry? That's right, it's water mods! Yay! Now, the water in vanilla Fallout 4 looks okay to my eyes. My only problems with it are the ugly screen-space reflections, which no mod can fix, and the full detail water not fading smoothly into the lower detail water. It sure doesn't look great, but below average looking water wouldn't break into my top 100 complaints about Fallout 4. Anyways, I have 13 mods to go over today. They all change the appearance of water in some way, using different methods. None of them really make a world of difference, but I found wet, Water Enhancement Textures looked the best. It provides a subtle but appreciable upgrade to water surfaces, and it edits some things that other mods don't, like improving the 3D models of waterfalls and splash effects. I also found the mod Wave Animation Vanilla Enhanced by the same author to be interesting. I'm not sure it will universally be considered an upgrade over Vanilla's more calm wave effects, but it's there if you want it. Keep in mind when using wet that it will conflict with any mod that also edits water records, which surprisingly could include rebalance mods if they're trying to edit how much radiation water gives you while swimming in it. Such conflicts aren't that serious though. One mod will win and your game will be fine. It's not like it'll crash or anything. But you'll want to check for conflicts in Fallout 4 edit just to be sure. Those are my recommendations. The rest of these mods simply aren't as good, and if you stick around long enough, you'll see why, so let's get moving. First up on the list is my recommended mod, Wet, Water Enhancement Textures. It installs as a foam mod, which lets you choose to add optional raindrop textures, and select between the regular plugin, a plugin that makes it easier to see underwater, and a plugin that increases water's radiation output to 8 rads per second over the usual 5. You cannot use the Underwater Clarity plugin at the same time as the More Radiation plugin, which is kind of understandable because both edit the same water records, but they could have been merged into one final plugin. It wouldn't have been too much extra work. But regardless, this mod adds new 2K water textures as well as 1K foam and raindrop textures, which are somewhat of an improvement over vanilla, as you can see from these comparisons. And thanks to edits to the water records themselves, the old ultra-intense specular highlights are toned down, and the LOD transition is more well hidden. New 3D models are added for splash effects and waterfalls, which are usually a big improvement over vanilla, although from some angles they introduce sorting errors that weren't there originally. Generally, the new models look better though. In some areas like thicket excavation, the water is more still and less choppy than vanilla or any other mod, which makes sense since there'd be no wind there to affect it. All told, this mod is not going to blow you away with its beauty, but that wasn't a realistic expectation to have in the first place. It does what it says, it's better than vanilla water, there's no performance loss, it's a solid mod, that's why I recommended it, so let's keep going. Second is my other kind of recommended mod, Wave Animation Vanilla Enhanced. This mod has a plugin, but it's only there to load the new assets. It doesn't edit any records, so there's no compatibility problems. All it does is add a new wave animation to the Commonwealth's coastline. You can decide for yourself whether you like it more than the calm waves of the vanilla game. Personally, I actually prefer the vanilla animations with the foam textures from Wet, so that's what I would use, but you do you. Third, we've got a texture mod called Water Enhanced. Whoa. It comes in 2K, 4K, and even 8K varieties, but I'm only showing off the 4K version here. It's released as loose files, so it might be wise to pack them up into a BA2 if you're getting stuttering. A lot of the time, it'll be hard to tell the difference between this mod and vanilla textures despite them being 64 times larger. The LOD cutoff is about as visible as before, but at least the overdone specular highlights are toned down. Foamy waves also seem to be heavily reduced down to the point of almost non-existence. I'm not sure why. Maybe the new foam texture isn't aligned properly. If you play long enough, you'll also notice this mod's textures look very grainy at a distance, although that might not really come through in this crappily captured footage. I really need to improve my recording settings, but anyways, the reason for the grainy look is a lack of MIP maps. Yeah, you kind of want MIP maps in your textures. That's all I can say about this mod, it's no good compared to Wet. Next up is another mod that looked good, but has an unfortunate problem, Clean Water of the Commonwealth. It's packaged as a foam mod with 2 pages of options. The first page controls radiation levels when swimming in the water. Depending on your choice, water can either give off no rads, the usual 5 rads, or 12 rads a second. The second page gives you 4 options for appearance, tropical, clean, clear, and crystal clear. Now, this mod is just an ESP, it doesn't contain any textures. All it does is change water's color and depth properties by editing water records. The tropical water looks kind of like mouthwash to me, and it's very easy to see through. Even underwater, you can see in near perfect clarity. It's very unnatural. The clean option is literally the exact same as vanilla water, but with the radiation of your choice. The clear option is actually less clear than tropical water, and it also looks nearly identical to vanilla in most circumstances. Due to an error in the file structure, the installer won't let you select the crystal clear option, but it can be manually installed, and it again has the same watercolor as vanilla. However, the water is almost as see-through as glass. You can view straight to the bottom of a lake. It's uncanny. If you select the no radiation option, whenever you crouch inside deep water, you will become invisible because, for reasons I cannot possibly understand, the radiation hazard spell was replaced with the stealth boy spell. Why? I have no idea, but the standard and extra radiation options don't have this bug. In any case, Wet beats this mod with its eyes closed, so let's move on to another mod made by the same author called Wasteland Water Revival, which has even more options. There's all of 9 selections in the foam mod: Caribbean Blue, Clearly Visible, Deep Blue, Glowworm, Moody, Quantum, Toxic Sludge, Tropical Legacy, and Zen Master. Just like the last mod, this one is merely an ESP with no new textures. Thankfully, unlike the last mod, the spells haven't been changed, so you won't become invisible. Caribbean Blue has a lot of specular reflection during the day, but is more muted at night. I like it better than the tropical water from the last mod. Clearly Visible is the vanilla watercolor, but you can see right to the bottom of the depths, which, just like the crystal clear option from the last mod, looks unnatural to me. Deep Blue is too blue for my taste. It looks like Minecraft water. Glowworm is an ugly green color. It kind of looks like FEV. I don't think many people are going to want this option. Moody water takes on the color of the sky easily, which looks alright. This might be the most sensible option. Quantum water looks like the Nuka-Cola quantum spills from Nuka World, but unlike what you'd expect from soda, it's almost as clear as the Clearly Visible option, so it looks weird. Toxic Sludge changes the water to a myriad of blue, yellow, green, and red colors depending on the depth, and it looks absolutely disgusting in my view. Tropical Legacy looks roughly the same as the tropical setting from the last mod, and Zen Master is possibly the most transparent water imaginable. None of these 9 options impressed me much. Sixth, we've got Vivid Waters, made by the same person who did Vivid Weathers. It has a full mod installer, but there's no options in it. This mod is kind of like Wet in that it contains both textures and record edits. Uniquely, it also changes the cube map for all water in the Commonwealth. Of course, this cube map is no more accurate than the vanilla cube map, and how could it be? It's one image to cover the entire game. Compared to Wet, I just don't think Vivid Waters is as good. It doesn't have foam textures, there's no 3D models, and its water texture is only 512 by 512. It's certainly an improvement over vanilla water, and you might prefer how clear shallow bodies of water are compared to Wet's presentation. There's definitely an argument to be made for Vivid Waters, since like I said at the beginning, none of these mods make a world of difference. I wouldn't question anyone using Vivid Waters over Wet if they like the look of it more. Seventh, we have a mod that seemed incredible but actually has a lot of problems. Flowing Rivers, Better Coastal Waves got an update. Like the name implies, this is an updated version of an earlier mod adding coastal waves, and now it also adds properly flowing rivers. I don't think it will surprise anyone to learn that Fallout 4's rivers almost always flow in the wrong direction. They go away from the coastline instead of into the ocean like any river in real life. It's the little things, Bethesda. Flowing Rivers aims to solve this problem, but it introduces some of its own. First off, rivers are now a lot louder, almost annoyingly loud. They also flow too fast for my liking, although there's an optional plugin to slow them down a bit. Another issue, water physics haven't changed, so you can't be carried away by the current, and objects floating in rivers will move in the opposite direction the water is flowing, which looks horrible. There's also visible water seams in areas where currents collide, like in East Boston. The other half of this mod, the Better Coastal Waves part, is equally screwed up. Upon first inspection, the new wave effects copied from Far Harbor look awesome, but when you look closer, you'll realize many of them aren't aligned properly to the water's surface. Sometimes they're off by a few centimeters, but other times they're not even close, floating a meter above the water or stuck far underneath it. It looks awful. Another issue is precombines. While this mod doesn't break precombines itself, because it edits the header where precombines are stored, it will break the precombines from Previsibeam's repair pack, so you'll need a patch if you want to use both mods together. This mod could still be great if it got some updates, because flowing rivers and stronger wave effects are two good ideas. Sadly, they've been botched badly. Our 8th mod, Moo's Clear Water, is less exciting. This is another mod like Clean Water of the Commonwealth. There's no textures, just edits to water's appearance via record changes. I don't have a lot to say about this one. The water is a slightly darker blue and a little more transparent than it is in vanilla. And that's about it. Moving on, we've got Real Water HD for ENB 2, a texture mod without a plugin. It adds some new 1K water textures, and that's basically it. The water surface is usually less choppy, and the foam looks better. The mod is meant to be used with ENB, and yeah, it does look better with an ENB, except for the atrocious screen space reflections. But yeah, I don't have much to say about this mod either. By the same author, there's also Luxor's Clean Water. This mod has no textures, it's just editing water records to make the water a somewhat lighter blue and a little bit harder to see through. Despite the name, the water isn't clean, it still gives you the same radiation as vanilla. The only unique part of this mod is it also directly edits the water in Nuka World, unlike any other mod I've looked at. But many Commonwealth water records are reused in Nuka World and Far Harbor, so it doesn't matter much. Luxor's Clean Water also fixes an LOD bug at the Weston water plant where the water doesn't appear in the LODs. Of course, this bug fix can also be downloaded separately and is compatible with every single one of these water mods, so it's not much of an advantage. So yeah, this is an okay mod, there's nothing wrong with it. 11th, I think, we have Simply Water. This is another texture mod which adds some 1K textures for water and 2K and 4K textures for foam and rain ripples respectively. The textures are packed as loose files, so you might want to put them into a BA2 if you're worried about stuttering. The mod's files have some recommendations for any tweaks, but as far as I can tell, most of the recommended settings are actually no-op settings that the game doesn't even read, leftovers from Bethesda's earlier games. As far as the mod itself, it makes the rain ripples smaller, I guess they look okay. The water surface itself has very few specular highlights now and less intense waves. Maybe some people will like the look of it, I don't know. I still prefer wet. Next up we have Waterworld, blue and translucent water. It's a water record mod with no texture data. It's installed with the foam mod, which offers you two options, regular and very translucent. Whichever option you pick, the water will become a darker shade of blue. If you pick the very translucent option, it will become very easy to see through, like the Zen Master water from Wasteland Water Revival. Neither option affects the specular or normal map properties of water, so it's exactly the same as vanilla, aside from color and transparency. Water LOD Fix is our penultimate mod, and it's kind of boring. It changes 3 water records, only editing the noise and UV scale, in an attempt to hide the ugly transition between high detail and low detail water. Because it only edits 3 records, it's partially compatible with other water record mods, but it will overwrite some of their changes, including in the Commonwealth's ocean, where most of the game's water is. I will say it does a good job of hiding the seam between high and low detail water, but so does wet, and wet does way more on top of that, so why not use wet instead, is my thinking on this mod. Our final mod is Fallout Water Overhaul. This one promises to be the biggest water overhaul ever, but most of what it does is already covered by wet, a much better mod. To be fair, FWO replaces meshes, replaces textures with 4K ones, and edits water records just like wet, but the end result doesn't look nearly as good. No matter where you are, the water has a sickly green tinge, less so for ocean water. Specular effects look over-sharpened, and instead of sparkling in and out like they do in vanilla, they travel across the water like a sort of foam, never disappearing. Worse still, in many inland areas there's weird lines on the water, which appear to be the result of broken screen space reflections. In a few particular areas, these artifacts are even more noticeable. None of the other mods I looked at had this problem, so I'm not sure what's going on with this one. The only part of this mod I like are the new blood splash particles. They're much higher resolution and gorier than the vanilla jello blood. If you could isolate those particles and remove the rest of the mod, Fallout Water Overhaul would actually be useful, but then it would be Fallout Blood Overhaul. Anyways, that's all the mods I looked at. I tested them out so you don't have to go through the pain of doing it yourself. If you have any more questions or suggestions, leave a comment about them. Next time I'll try to cover a more exciting topic because this one probably bored you to tears. Until then, toodles!